All right. Well, parents, at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's meeting. We're getting ready to share our screen with you guys. And at that point in time, we've got a slideshow presentation that we're going to go through. And throughout the time, we're going to make sure that we continue to check our waiting room for our parents coming in, as well as our chat for any questions. At this point in time, we have tried to make sure that everybody is muted. If you have any specific questions, please make sure that you type it in the chat box. And at the end of tonight's meeting, we will unmute everybody for Q&A as well. So again, we want to say thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, we really appreciate your time and we value your time. We thought the easiest way of doing this meeting is to have it via Zoom. And we want to make sure that we're able to give you as much information as possible, the most efficient way as possible, and go from there. So as we get started, our testing is from April 25th to May 6th. We're going to have ELA, math, social studies, and science as our testing subjects. Our students have been working hard all year long in an effort to prepare for this. Our teachers have been working diligently as well. And we want to go through and kind of give you that information to help best support your students from home. So today's overview, we're going to talk about what the different parts of LEAP are, how the test has changed this year, how LEAP will affect your student, letting you take a look at some of the sample testing and questions, and talking about some of the things that we're doing to prepare your students, as well as what you can do as students at home, as parents at home, to prepare your students as well, because this is a team effort, and it's definitely something that all of us together are a part of in order to best help our students. So as we go through some of the things that we need to take a look at, let's see, are the changes for this year. So overall, the big changes this year is everything's going to be computer-based tests from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. In years past, only 5th grade were the grades that were computer-based. Well, this year it has changed slightly. 4th grade and 3rd grade are going to be on the computer. So as you can see our schedule, this is for 3rd grade. They're going to begin on Wednesday, April 27th. They're going to take ELA and math each day. So the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. They're going to get a little bit of a break for that weekend, and then they're going to come back. They're going to take science, and they're going to take social studies as well. So those are some of the different sessions, some of the different times. This is all information that's going to be posted on our website, our Facebook page. We're going to make this available to everybody. So don't feel like you have to run and grab a pen and paper and write all this stuff down right this second, because all of this, again, will be posted at the conclusion of this presentation. Additionally, for 4th graders, it's going to look a little bit different. They're going to start on Monday, April 25th. They're going to have ELA and math. They're going to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're going to get a little bit more of a break, because then they're going to go back again on Thursday, May the 5th, and Friday, May 6th with science and social studies. And then with 5th grade, very similar. It's going to be that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then coming back the Thursday, Friday for science and social studies as well. Now, the 5th grade is going to be a little bit different. As you can see on Thursday, May 5th, in science, there is 2 sessions, and then there's going to be a brief field test as well. That field test is something that's coming down from the state level. That's not something that we have selected either as a school or as a parish. This is part of the state trying to get additional data and information for the years to come. Last year, we were part of that group that had a field test. So this is something that our students have already had a little bit of experience with. But again, this is something that our 5th grade only is going to have to take at the end of their sessions. So moving forward, we're going to get into ELA, and we're going to have our instructional coach, Ms. Pam Davis, take over and tell us all things ELA.
Hi, everybody. All right, I'm going to go over the ELA portion for our LEAP testing. And just as a little side note, if things are delayed or they're not moving, it's because I'm on a different computer that doesn't have a touch screen. So I'm touching the screen and nothing's happening. So I'm using a mouse. Okay. So for our ELA portion of our LEAP, the LEAP focuses on an integrated approach to reading and writing. They are it's focusing on careful reading, close reading of grade level text across a range of disciplines, which is our cross-curricular, social studies, science, and the arts. Reading text and answering questions and vocabulary questions about the text, and then writing about the text using text evidence. And I know that you and your children are very familiar with text evidence. Questions worth answering in a way that builds meaning. They focus on students citing evidence from text, and it's a focus on words that matter most in text and are essential to understanding a particular text, that include context that allow a student to determine literal and figurative meaning. Okay, we're going to see a couple of different question choices. We're going to have your multiple choice questions where you read the question and select your answer, but we're also going to have multiple select questions. And in these questions, your students will be asked to identify more than one correct answer. Now, when they are presented with a question of this type, the number of answers required is going to be in boldface type. So that's a good reminder to read carefully, pay attention to the question and how many answers are required. Because we're online testing, your students are going to be using these online tools. At school, they have been practicing with these tools in our computer lab with Ms. Karen and Ms. Stacy, and they will also be reviewing these tools prior to the test in the week we return after Easter. Because we are computer-based tests, this is an example of what your student may see online, and it is where in this situation you have a Venn diagram and they're comparing and contrasting, and they're going to drag and drop the options into the diagram. Here would be read the passage and use the drop down box to select the word that best completes the sentence. So this is another feature on those computer-based tests. There's several different tasks. One task, the first one is a research simulation task. They must use details from the passages to write a letter or an essay explaining, describing, or comparing and contrasting. And here are some possible options in the different grade levels. This is a third grade example of research simulation task. Students will have 2 to 3 passages to read with 2 to 3 sets of multiple choice or the multiple select questions for each passage. Another example, in some questions, it's not multiple select, but they have 2 parts. So part A and part B. And if you see this side note, multiple choice questions that have a part A and a part B, if you get part A correct and part B incorrect, you'll still get partial credit. But if you get part A incorrect, both parts will be marked incorrect. So encourage your student to read carefully. And this is just more examples of a part A and part B question. This is 4th grade example. This is another 3rd grade research simulation task. Here's an example of multiple select where 2 is boldface because they need to select 2 choices. And then this is an example of the writing prompt. That's at the end of the passage. Students will have 75 to 90 minutes to complete each session. And this is just another example, comparing and contrasting evidences in each source. And your students have been practicing this in class all year. There's also a literary analysis task. This is where students are going to use details from stories, poems, and excerpts to write an essay explaining or describing how, these are examples from the different grade levels, how the illustrations help the reader understand the character's actions. 4th grade, describe the character's qualities based on words and actions from both passages. 5th grade, point of view of authors or characters. These are examples of literary analysis tasks. This is a 5th grade example. Here's another sample. Questions will focus on theme, point of view, character development, vocabulary, and summarizing. A 5th grade example. Okay, another section is narrative writing task. So students must use details from the stories, poems, folk tales, excerpts to write a story or journal entry explaining. We have a story like what might happen next, use setting characters, or how the story would be different if it were from another character's point of view. And this is an example. This is a 4th grade example of the narrative writing task. We also have the reading, literary, and informational text. And it says no writing. This is going to be reading the passage, answering the questions. Here's another example. Okay, and we're going to move to math. Ms. Bowman is going to talk with us about the math portion of the LEAP test.
Okay, hi, I'm Ms. Bowman, and I want to discuss some things that your students will be seeing on the Math LEAP. Okay, the LEAP math assessment will focus strongly on the content most needed in each grade level that reflects instruction in an effective math classroom. It incorporates expectations of the rigor detailed in content and in standards. The LEAP also addresses the conceptual understanding, procedural skills and fluency, and application in every grade level. Your students will solve real life problems, provide reasoning, arguments, justifications to support their answers. Some of the problems will require students to show calculations and apply and interpret mathematical modeling in a real world context. Okay, this slide is just talking about the type of questions, and it's a kind of a rubric of how the students will be scored. But at the bottom, it says task types. There'll be 3 types of math questions that your students will see. The first one is a type 1. That's conceptual understanding, fluency, and application. Type 2 are written arguments or justifications, and that's where your students explain their math. They're going to use our writing framework that we use at Eastside. The teachers have been working with students on that since the beginning of the school year. And then type 3, this is where modeling and application comes into play in a real world context or scenario. If your student has accommodations, they will be allowed to use a calculator. But if not, 3rd through 5th grade will not be allowed to use a calculator at all on any portion of the LEAP test. Pam spoke about earlier, there are two types of multiple choice. The first one is just your typical multiple choice, but the second one is a multiple select. They may ask you to choose 2 to 3 different answers, and it will be bold. Each teacher, whether it's math, ELA, science, or social studies, has been going over with this with students since the beginning of the year. They have put it on their unit test, quizzes, just for them to get used to seeing that type of question. And then this type of answer, the students will start at the top and put their answer in. They move from left to right. And then after they put their answer in, they have to go and bubble each letter, excuse me, not letter, number or decimal point. LEAP reference sheets, 3rd and 4th will not have a reference sheet. Louisiana state standards in these grades do not require one. 5th grade, however, will have a reference sheet. And this is just showing the prerequisite knowledge that 4th grade should have. And this is the 5th grade reference sheet that they will have, but it will not have at the bottom, they need to know their prerequisite knowledge. And as Pam spoke about this with ELA, it's the same with math. They've been working on this in the lab with Miss Stacy and Miss Stroud. The teachers have been going in there with the students. On the computer-based test, this includes the online tools, which allow students to select their answer choices. Also, you'll see students, they use this in Edulastic on their math test. And they're also, some of the math teachers have been using, I know in 4th grade, they've been using the digital protractor and the rulers online as well.
All right, parents, at this point in time, we're going to take a look at social studies and science. As a former history teacher myself, this is absolutely my first love and my wheelhouse when it comes to testing and when it comes to the different subjects. I am a social studies nerd through and through. One of the things that is very interesting with social studies, and it's something that has not changed for years and years and years, is social studies is absolutely hand in hand with what ELA brings to the table. A lot of the same skills are there from ELA to social studies. It translates very seamlessly. And when it comes to social studies, I tell students all the time, it's going to be a ton of writing. And that's something that we see when it gets to social studies. So when we start taking a look at some of the different questions, some of the different resources that our students have to encounter and they have to work through in social studies, the thing that we look at it is literacy becomes super important, making sure that students take their time and they understand what's being asked of them, and then being able to go through and really, I guess, wade through the mountain of material sometimes for those answers. So as we go through the PowerPoint here, we're going to see a lot of different types of resources that students are going to have to use to answer these questions. So a lot of times you'll get different primary and secondary resources, all of which our students have been exposed to throughout the year at quite frequent intervals. Maps, documents, journal articles, again, those primary and secondary resources, those are going to be critical that our students both throughout the year have to dig through them and receive that instruction, which they have, but also during the test, being able to take their time. So one of the things as parents that you can do is try to remind our students, hey, when you're on those tests, take your time, really read through it and look at what it's asking you for, and then go through and take your time when answering those questions as well. So again, we look at some of these different questions. They have multiple documents that our students have to really kind of wade through and look at just to be able to answer, you know, a handful of questions. And sometimes it's multiple documents for just, you know, 2 or 3, 4 questions. Sometimes it may be these big documents just for one. But again, you go through knowing exactly what they're asking of you is the most important thing. If you look at this example here, yeah, it's saying explain how the Transcontinental Railroad changed the United States and use the documents and your knowledge of social studies to describe these effects. So again, it's looking for both their knowledge and their ability to dive into these resources to pull those answers, which again, our students have been doing throughout the year. Yeah, and it is definitely not a new concept to them whatsoever. Again, some of these different sources, why the sources are so important and their ability to go through and read through it, it's because they have to pull that information directly from it. So again, some of these different items that the students are going to see, whether it's paintings, timelines, political cartoons, yeah, any number of those things that they have to dive into is going to be important as they take the social studies exam. I know both Ms. Bowman and Ms. Davis have mentioned about the different online tools. Different online tools are no different in social studies and science. The students have been going through that in the computer lab. They've had tons of experience with those different online tools, and it's going to be the same thing in that social studies exam. Got a little hang up here on our slideshow. Give us 1 second. All right, now we're going to transition to science. Science, one of the things that is very similar to last year's test is the idea of broadening the student's horizon when it comes to the actual curriculum. One of the things that our students have really been exposed to this year and in years past is the idea of phenomena, the real world observations that can be explained through scientific knowledge and reasoning. Our students are very adept at going through and taking a concept and having to develop their knowledge through experimentation, through explanation, and through working with others in order to try to get a deeper knowledge of the information. One of the things that we could say is instead of their knowledge being a mile wide and an inch deep, now their knowledge base is really about diving into the material and being able to fully explain it, fully understand it with that phenomena. So with the science test, that's going to be kind of the bedrock of what they're going to have to do there. Some of the different concepts is going to be the engineering, the science side of it, technology, things of that nature, which go hand in hand with what our teachers do with the STEAM lessons that Eastside is kind of famous for. So on these tests, the students really have to apply themselves, and they really have to look at not just the information, but how that information connects to the real world problem and how to go about it from there. Again, we go back to the multiple choice and the multiple select. That's very similar to what was already previously explained. Again, there is going to be the possibility of some writing there, and the tools that the students are already very familiar with throughout the year. All of those are the same in science the way that they are in the previous tests with social studies, math, and ELA as explained. Some of the different examples in science, again, you've got a ton of information that our students are having to read through, and they have to really take a look at what it's asking for from them. Yeah, in this particular example, which statement best explains. Our students are having to take that critical reasoning skill, and they're having to apply it here in this particular example and in this particular subject. As we continue, again, you've got part A and part B. So you've got a little bit of information at the top that students are having to go through, and is asking for which claim is supported by the information. So again, very similar to social studies, they're having to go in, they're having to pull that information from the material and then essentially prove their answer with that material. So again, you see in part B, what's most likely. So all of those are kind of close, but what's most likely, they have to support their answer there. Again, we see a bunch of different resources. You see different examples here of graphs with that data. You also have examples on the left there with the erosion experiment. They're having to apply their knowledge in order to get that information. So going through and using these resources that they give you, the tables, the different diagrams, the different figures like that, to be able to answer those questions is going to be very important. Again, some of the different items that they're going to have to be expected. There's a constructed response item at the bottom there. A lot of the writing, all of the writing, our students need to be able to use that writing framework that our teachers have used all year long. And it's something that we use K-5 here at Eastside. And it's something that we as an administrative staff really believe in, and our teachers really believe in. And our students, I know, absolutely know that writing framework, but they're going to apply that in their written answers as well. As we move into the final area of our presentation tonight, I'm going to pass it back over to Ms. Bowman as she explains the achievement levels and what you guys as parents can directly do to help impact your students and help set them up for success.
Okay, these are the 5 achievement levels. The first one is advanced. Students performing at this level have exceeded college and career readiness expectations and are well prepared for the next level of studies in the content area. The next one is mastery. Students performing at this level have met college and career readiness expectations and are prepared for the next level of studies in this content area. Basic. Your student performing at this level has nearly met college and career readiness expectations and may need additional support to fully prepare for the next level of studies in this content area. And then you have approaching basic. Students performing at this level have partially met college and career readiness expectations and will need much support to be prepared for the next level of studies in this content area. And then you have unsatisfactory. Students performing at this level have not yet met the college and career readiness expectations and will need extensive support to be prepared for the next level of studies in this content area. These are some test-taking strategies. Read the directions that you can share with your students at home, just to remind them before test taking. Read the directions as carefully as the questions. Use complete sentences during a writing assignment and always show your work on constructive response math items. Read all of the answers before choosing one. That way you can eliminate all the answers you know aren't correct and have a smaller number of possible right answers. Keep your eye out for keywords like always, never, every, no, not, and all. If these words show up in the answer, they are often a signal that this is not the correct answer. Those type of keywords tend to rule out any flexibility, and for the most part, answers tend not to be absolute. And then last, skip a question if you're completely stuck on it. Wrestling to come up with an answer can not only cause you anxiety that may affect your performance on the rest of the test, but can also use up a lot of your testing time. You might be surprised how easy it is to answer the questions when you come back to it. And on the LEAP test, they are able, on the computer, they're able to flag that question and then come back to it if they have time. As a parent, what can you do? Make sure that attendance is a priority. Look over your child's homework daily and check for understanding. Go over the test with your child when he gets it back or when you receive the scores. Avoid pressuring your child and provide him with encouragement. Few children want to fail, and most will try their hardest to do well. Set a reasonable bedtime and stick to it. Tired children have difficulty focusing and are easily frustrated by challenges. Make sure your child has enough time to wake up fully before he has to go to school. Provide a high protein, healthy, low sugar breakfast for your child. And then talk to your child about how the test went. What did he do well in? What he would have done differently? And think of it as a mini debriefing or brainstorming session.
So parents, here at the end, we have a few websites and apps that if you're interested for additional resources to help your child, you can absolutely check out. They're at louisianabelieves.com. There are some practice tests as well. And again, this slideshow will be posted here in just a little while on our Facebook page. We'll put it on our website, so you'll have access to all of these different links. One of the things that I'd like to do is take a moment to thank both Ms. Bowman and Ms. Davis for their help and their expertise when it comes to testing. But we also want to thank you, not just for your time, but for all the efforts that you put in as parents to help support our Patriots. We love your children. They are absolutely wonderful children. We are so proud of our Patriots and the work that they've done this year. They have worked tirelessly to make sure that they are ready for this LEAP test, and they're going to do fantastic. But most of all, I want to take a second to thank their teachers. Their teachers are absolutely amazing, wonderful educators who absolutely strive to give everything that they can for our students. I'm very, very proud to be the principal here at Eastside and to work with the educators that I do. These ladies are just phenomenal in the way that they go about pushing our children for the absolute best, to give them every opportunity that they can to succeed. And without their efforts, that this would not be possible. We would not be nearly as successful, but it is truly a group team effort. It is a community effort. And that's what we truly believe here at Eastside, is that we are a community-based school that cares about the whole child. And testing is very, very important. And, we're here for a reason, because the LEAP test is important. But we want to reassure all of our parents that testing is just one facet of what makes a student successful. Here at Eastside, we believe in the whole child approach. We want to make sure that your child has a very well-rounded educational opportunity here, and you are a huge part of that in making sure that our children are successful. So again, I want to thank you for your efforts. I want to thank you for your attendance tonight on this meeting. We hope that it was informative and it was helpful and it was relatively painless, but we do appreciate your time and being with us, and we appreciate all that you do. At the end here, we have a survey that we're going to post in the chat box. Please, 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 if you would take just a second, as soon as we can get this posted, we're going to have that in there. Please answer the short little questions that we have. That is very important for our Title I needs that we have. So again, I'm going to post that here in just a second. If you would take a moment and click the link that I just added, I would certainly appreciate it. It won't take but a second. We're going to unmute everybody here momentarily. If you have any questions, please feel free to speak up. We'll try to answer any questions. And again, if you would answer that survey and go from there, we would certainly appreciate it. So this time we'll open up the floor for any questions. If you have any questions and you want to use the chat feature below, please feel free to use the chat feature below, and we'll answer any questions. Great question. Will we need to send a lunch for LEAP test? Ms. Bowman has done our LEAP testing schedule and has done a phenomenal job on it this year. Lunch will be the same lunch that it always is. Your students will go to lunch very much on a similar schedule. If you choose to send them a lunch, you absolutely can, but lunch is not going to be an issue for LEAP testing. Same thing with breakfast as well. We encourage all of our parents when it comes to breakfast. If you want to feed them a great breakfast, that is hugely beneficial. who doesn't like a good breakfast, but at the same time, we will have our regular breakfast here at Eastside as well for all of our students to make sure that they are well taken care of. Great question here that came up. Do they need to leave their school bag at home? No, send them with their regular school bag. It's still a regular school day at the conclusion of the test. Now we try to make sure that at the end of the day, we use good common judgment and we don't tire our students out unnecessarily, but yeah, please do send them with their school bag. There's a lot of comments here about all the hard work that our staff does. We appreciate all that you guys do as well. When will scores be available? That's a great question. We do not have a hard date at this time. Traditionally, that comes in the summer though. For our 5th grade students who are going to the junior high, we will send the scores to the junior high. They'll make copies and they will send it out to you guys as quickly as possible as well. But I anticipate probably early to mid-July is when we'll see the scores. It typically takes us a little bit of time to wade through that data and get everything organized. And then at that point, as soon as we're able to release those scores to our parents, we're going to do that as quickly as possible. But that is definitely a summertime ordeal. All right, so this is a great question. Ms. Janessa, with the social studies portion of the test, I understand that there's a lot of writing. Will it be graded by completing the answer to the best of their capability or the correct answer? So anytime there is a writing section, it is based off of a rubric. When you are answering those writing questions, that's why we go back to that writing framework being so important. Kids do get partial credit for their answer. That is not something that is traditionally just yes or no, right or wrong. Again, it goes back to that rubric. It is very important for our students to be able to pull information from those resources, because even if their background knowledge is a little bit off in their answer, by being able to pull that information from the resources to help defend their answer and to support their answer, that's where they get some of that extra credit there, some of that partial credit. All right, let's see. So 4th grade social studies, that is typically going to be constructed response, which are a little bit on the shorter side. But again, it goes back to when it comes to writing, we want to make sure they give a complete answer, because that's where in the rubric they're going to get more of those points to be had. Great question here that just came in. Does their score impact the ability to be promoted to the next grade? In years past, that was definitely something that was impacted by that. I will say that it's a little bit more on the complicated side. This is a very important test. The parish has what they call the pupil progression, which is a series of requirements that students need to be able to hit in order to go to the next grade. That is determined in May. Well, if our scores don't come back until the summer, yeah, that kind of goes back to how's the impact there. This data point is important. This test is important. There is a small connection, but to answer your question directly, does it impact their ability to be promoted? No, there are other criteria for that. It's very important, but there are other criteria. Can students use the restroom during the test? There are breaks in between the test. We highly encourage our students to use that opportunity to go to the restroom to prepare for the next session. Our sessions, I think our longest session that we have is 85 minutes, which is a big session, but at the same time, it's not hours on end. So if students absolutely have to use the restroom during the test, they are allowed to do so. They're able to do that. Our teachers do have a procedure for that set in place, but at the same time, we heavily encourage them to use the restroom anytime there is those breaks. All right. At this time, parents, we're going to stick around for a few more minutes in case there are any more questions. So far, we've had a lot of great questions, and we certainly appreciate the response and the feedback. If there are additional questions that you can think of that have not been answered here tonight, or you think of them later on, please, please, please email the teachers, email myself, Ms. Bowman, Ms. Davis. We want to be able to answer your questions. That way you can be able to support our Patriots at home, just like we try to support them here. So please don't be shy. Email us those questions, give us a call here at school, reach out to those teachers. We want to make sure that you have all the information that you need in order to best help support us. Because again, here at Eastside, we're a community-based school, and that means that we are all on the same team pushing for our kids. Will they have homework on testing days? That's a great question. Again, that is something that we tell our teachers, make sure that we are not pressuring our students unnecessarily. And the answer is no, they will not have homework on testing days. Our teachers, all of our teachers recognize this. And this is kind of an unspoken rule, but no, they will not have homework on testing days. Well, folks, at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our session. For those of you who are still on, I certainly appreciate your time and again, your attendance here tonight. We are going to be placing both the PowerPoint that we saw and we followed along with tonight, as well as the recorded copy of this presentation on our Facebook page, our website, and then this recorded copy is also going to be on our YouTube page as well. You can find our YouTube page on YouTube. It's our Eastside VIPS YouTube page. Anytime we have a video, we're going to upload it there, and you will have access to this. So again, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you, and reach out to us if you have further questions. And I know our Patriots are going to absolutely do amazing on the test after our Easter break, and have a great Easter break as well. That's coming up in just another day, and that's going to be exciting for everybody as well. So again, have a great evening. And we certainly appreciate you. Thank you.